When the Mason learns that the key to the warrior on the block is the proper application of the dynamo of living power, he has learned the mystery of his craft. The seething energies of Lucifer are in his hands, and before he may step onward and upward, he must prove his ability to properly apply energy.
Applying the seething energies of Lucifer is indeed what they had in mind as they built the city of DC as a massive Masonic ritual site, illuminated in the seasonal light of the Isis-Osiris star Sirius and filled with demonically charged architecture, idols, and magic street layouts, ultimately setting the table for the coming main event ritual, the raising of the final Osiris to rule the unified world kingdom. The goal of a unified world kingdom isn't anything new. And as a matter of fact, Bible prophecy foretold a specific order of kingdoms that would come leading up to the final kingdom of Antichrist. And as Solomon said, there is nothing new under the sun.
You have to go back to Daniel's prophecy of the four kingdoms. There was Babylon, the Medes and Persians, Greece, and Rome. 4 world kingdoms prophesied. All of these played out exactly as it was foretold and was being fulfilled as Rome, the 4th kingdom on the list, was dominating the world while John was on Patmos. The Lord gave him the word to connect and pick up where Daniel left off. In Revelation 17:10 it says, "There are 7 kings, 5 are fallen and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he comes, he must continue a short space." Each of the 7 kings have a kingdom associated with them.
Daniel gives us 4 kingdoms. The 2 prior world kingdoms that took place before the time of his prophecy were Egypt and Assyria, which makes Rome the 6th kingdom of the 7 mentioned in Revelation 17. This kingdom was currently in power when the revelation was given to John. Rome was a political, religious superpower of that day. Rome had the spirit of Antichrist, which is also known as the spirit of Babylon. You see, they were persecuting the people of God and leading the culture into spiritual fornication through idolatry. Peter confirms this idea in his epistles when he writes them from the church at Babylon, while actually being in Rome. This was a replay of the past Babylonian system while foreshadowing the final system to come, all maintaining that great horse spirit of Babylon.
Now the king that is yet to come is the one that will rule the prophesied 7th and final kingdom. This king will die by the sword according to Revelation 13. Simply put, this king will be assassinated and his death will be mourned worldwide. We're talking about a world political leader who has amassed unprecedented works in globalization and peace. One who has labored in bringing about change and breaking down the walls of political and religious division. So yes, when he is assassinated, the world will mourn his death. But then, in a miraculous resurrection back to life, he will be reanimated by the entity that ascends out of the bottomless pit. Revelation 17:8 explains this as the beast that was and is not and yet is. So he was alive, then dead, then alive again. It's through this supernatural resurrection, when the entity from the bottomless pit possesses this 7th king's dead body, that he becomes the 8th and final king, known as the Antichrist. This kingdom of the Antichrist is being built and revived today, with the majority of its policies in force being legislated and framed in our very own Washington, D.C.
How many people know that a tomb for the resurrection of Antichrist has already been prepared for his raising, and it lies beneath the U.S. Capitol dome? The United States Capitol crypt, it's a large circular room filled with 40 neoclassical Doric columns directly beneath the United States Capitol rotunda. As all mystic rabbis and Freemasons understand, the number 40 has great significance throughout the Torah, the Talmud, the mystery schools, because the number 40 represents transition or change, the concept of renewal, a new beginning. Rabbis say the number 40 has the power to lift the world into a new spiritual state. So consider how Noah's flood represented the end of one age and the birth of a new one, and it lasted for 40 days. Moses was on Mount Sinai for 40 days and came down with the stone tablets that set the rules for a new order. But according to Mackey's authoritative encyclopedia Freemasonry, 40 is the number of days of mourning in Assyria, Phoenicia, and Egypt to commemorate the death and the burial of their sun god, as well as the period in the festivals of the resurrection of Osiris. So consider that the U.S. Capitol crypt was built originally to offer a secret entrance to a coffer that they call Washington's tomb, that's stationed next to a repository of 13 statues of the National Statuary Hall collection. Of course, the number 13 is not coincidental. It's sacred to Freemasons as the number of Osiris and his future resurrection. Revelation 13:3 describes the head of the beast being wounded unto death. Then the whole world marvels when the beast is healed and rises from the dead. In this mockery of the death and resurrection of Christ, I suggest that the most fitting place on earth for the Antichrist body to lie in state will be in the tomb of Washington beneath the floor of the Capitol dome. Why? Because the rotunda of the dome is where deceased presidents, celebrated commanding officers, even celebrated private citizens, like recently the Reverend Billy Graham, lay in state beneath the magic 72 pentagrams and the apotheosis of George Washington, America's first Osiris, to be translated into the kingdom of Osiris. But until now, nobody has laid directly beneath the rotunda in the Capitol crypt that was, according to authoritative Freemasons, prepared for America's Osiris. There is therefore no other more appropriate place for a United States president or a celebrated global leader to be placed for viewing. It was prepared and has been in waiting specifically for the magic ceremony that will give rise to the beast of Revelation. On his death, Antichrist will be placed in this magic coffer designed by Freemasons, and the 33rd degree Scottish Rite members will come there to perform the raising ceremony. Through Masonic alchemy, presidential apotheosis, that is, the leader of the United States, America's Pharaoh, being transformed into a god within the Capitol dome or the womb of Isis in sight of the obelisk of Osiris, or the Washington Monument to those who Masons call profane, the uninitiated, actually began with America's first and most revered president, Master Freemason George Washington. In fact, Masons in attendance at Washington's funeral in 1799 cast sprigs of acacia or evergreen to symbolize both Osiris's resurrection and Washington's imminent resurrection in the realm where Osiris presides. Now, according to this Masonic enchantment, Osiris, Horus, was rising within a new president in D.C. as Washington took his role as Osiris of the underworld. Now, that's further simulated and symbolized by the three-story design of the Capitol building. Freemasons point out how the Great Pyramid of Giza was made up of three main chambers to facilitate Pharaoh's transference to Osiris, just as the Temple of Solomon was a three-sectioned tabernacle made up of the ground floor, the middle chamber, and the Holy of Holies. The U.S. Capitol building is therefore designed with three stories: Washington's tomb, the crypt, and the rotunda, capped by a dome. Each floor has significant esoteric meaning regarding apotheosis, and the so-called tomb of Washington is empty, has been since construction. So we have to ask ourselves, why didn't they just clear this area out and use it if Washington was its intended corpse, but refused to use the facility? The official narrative is that a legal issue kept the government from placing Washington's body there. However, just as the tomb of Jesus Christ was emptied before his ascension, Washington is not in his tomb because he was never meant to be. He was the forerunner, the John the Baptist, sent to prepare the way for a Messiah, while he himself traveled to the home of Osiris, as depicted high overhead in the dome, in the womb of Isis, in the apotheosis of George Washington.
When you visit Washington, D.C., and you tour the Capitol building, the religion and the beliefs of the founders and proliferators of this great nation are clearly depicted in the apotheosis of George Washington.